Hey, I know, like, you know where I'm at, like, hey, Jeff, no, I got you, brody. Look, hey, let's go, hey. Real life, real talk, never fall, we ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't, I'm just too attached. I was so lost, I ain't going back. Never fall, never fall. We on the road, yeah, we on the road. Every day like the Olympics gon' go. Yeah. I'm in control, I thought you should know. Real life, real talk, never fall.
Hey guys, what's up? We're back. It's the three of us today. The boys are back. We got Harry as always. Denver's back. But anyway, guys, it's good to be back. It's good to catch up. How are we, boys? How's your week been?
I've been all good. Pretty chill. We got power at home, so I'm happy.
How's training?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Everything's good, bro.
Training going well this week? Everything on track?
Yeah, bro.
Finally back in my groove. Feel good.
Yeah, well, you guys are lifting all the weights. I can't lift anymore.
Oh, rubbish.
That actually brings me to what I want to first talk about today. There's been this, this lift with purpose thing we've been going on about. Trying to encourage people to lift weights properly, basically. And I assume, that's a positive thing. We're trying to help people and we don't need to do this. And it's, we're just kind of giving you 2 hours of our day to try and encourage you. And people still get butthurt. I don't know why people get butthurt over talking about lifting weights well and properly, but they do. Not heaps of people. It's cool to see so many people take it on board with their training and their posts and tagging us, and it's cool to see that. But there's obviously always the people that are one person. I got sent a screenshot and it was something about is lifting weights with good form a new thing. And honestly, I felt like in this day and age, it is, because most people don't do it. And yeah, it made me laugh because it's I feel like this industry now, it's becoming this, not all of it, obviously, it's a great industry, but there's parts of it where no matter what you do, whether it's something good, something bad, something amazing, there's always this group of people who are just ready to pick and prod at literally anything you say or anything you do. And it's annoys the shit out of me, if I'm honest. It annoys the shit out of me. But I guess that's just part of the game. And what I wanted to talk about, another thing I want to talk about with this Live with Purpose thing, is I want to actually break it down with you guys, because I feel like half of the people take it on board, slow their stuff down, really control their weights, use the muscle real well, and that's what we want. But then there's other people who it's almost an excuse or a reason to train like a pussy. And I think there's a line, and it's not a don't use it as something to make training easy. It should actually make training harder. And Denver, seeing as you're the guy that started this, pretty much, I want you to just explain what it means to you. What does it mean to you? Break it right down, okay? So that people can understand where we're coming from, and we're not just saying live with good form, because obviously we want to live with good form, but there's more to it. So break it down for the people.
All right, again, not trying to hurt any feelings here.
If they're hurt, bro.
Yeah, we're not. It's not we're not trying to target people or anything here. It's just that we're trying to do something to help a lot of people coming up in the industry. It's not something that we have to do, but I see it as a good thing, it's the whole reason I said started Lift with this purpose thing, because I see a lot of ego in the gym. Most people are in such a hurry to load up the bar and lift huge weight. That's all good. But half repping it ain't gonna do shit. Because at the end of the day, we're not powerlifters. We're bodybuilders. So we want to lift as much weight as we can through good range of motion and using the intended muscle that we want to train. I've made mistakes, coming up in bodybuilding, wanting to just throw around massive poundages. And that's part of the reason why I really have to prioritize my chest, because I've always had such dominant shoulders and triceps. And if I power through my chest movements, they might look perfect on video, but stimulation isn't there. Like I'm not putting that weight through my chest. So when I say with purpose, it's like with every rep, I'm trying to contract, control, squeeze that chest. All right, Harry, you chuck something in.
Well, it's I think you got to find the balance, right? So I think that you have to have a certain level of strength for the style of training that for example, you do, Denver. There's a certain amount of development and strength that you already need to have, and you have to have a certain connection. Because if you don't have that muscle connection, and you're benching 60 kilos, it doesn't really matter if that becomes 160 kilos, or you know what I mean. The connection's missing. So, and then the power's not there. So, does somebody who can only do those reps with 40 kilos, he's going to get a lot more benefit from doing a more explosive style. Now, I'm not saying sloppy, just explosive. So, at the level of strength that you have, Denver, and I have, and Jordan has, and guys who are more advanced, probably with training, we can do that. There's two things that are really crucial here. One is that we've already got power, so we know how to apply it, and then we also have that the ability, trained over years, to push out those really hard reps. So, as Jordan was saying earlier, guys who are often people who just, I'm going to slow everything down, it's going to be perfect, my reps and this and that. Well, in actual fact, if you're training your back and you're doing those sort of super slow, concentric and eccentric, for most people, their arms are going to get tired before their back actually gets effectively fatigued. At the end of the day, if you gave them a barbell row and told them to do it anyway, they're not doing it right? So I love the idea of slowing everything down and really focusing on contraction and extension, full range of motion. I do think that it's really important to understand that system applies really effectively to certain movements and certain body parts. So I feel like if you're doing, like a leg press or some sort of a machine press or something, it's much easier because you're taking out all those ancillary body parts that need to stabilize, and they get fatigued under load. So it's harder to do that with those movements. But I'm not going to say that people who adopt that system often do it in an effort to be lazy, but I will say that a lot of the time people are like, well, I'm not lifting heavy, but my weight, my control is amazing. Well, and then they might use you as an example, Denver, and I'll be like, yeah, the weight's also heavy. Yeah. Do you understand does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, I think what you're doing is perfect. The difference between you doing that tempo, those that tempo of reps and that full range of motion is the difference between doing like a 12-plate leg press and a 16-plate leg press. It's not the difference between doing 2 plates and 4 plates. Yeah. So you have to have that power. To me, I think you've got to have that power. You've got to have that already be trained in that, have a certain level before you can really utilize that effectively. In saying that, that's more in relation to the tempo. Full range of motion, dude, all day, every day, every exercise, all the time. So from the beginning, from the very beginning.
What I took from that was you basically said you like train with power once you have a certain base. Slow it down, blah, 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 because there's no point if you're bench pressing 40 kilos, because that's what you need to lift in a controlled way. It's probably not going to do anything for someone who's actually got some muscle, really.
Yeah.
I just think it's just using, I think once you've trained for a while, you know how to it just comes down to like a controlled power, I guess, not just power, not just banging it up, because yeah, for sure. And that's all that this is really like. It's really, this is the funny thing with bodybuilding is everything gets so fucking complicated. But like all it originally was when Denver started it was control your weights. Control them on the way down and control them on the way up. It's not that like, it's not that.
No, that's not complicated. It's not complicated at all.
Contract the muscle and use a full range of motion. I get it. Like, I kind of think the way when I look back, I think it's a real good way to learn how to lift because you learn how to engage. Like you learn how to engage your muscles. You learn how to when I learned how to train my lats, I got taught to train super slow and like hold the contractions and just feel them. And then as I got better at that, I could train them like more rigid, you know what I mean? Like with heavier weight, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's a good way to learn that. And then you build that base, and then it's almost like you're going back in a way. You get to a certain point, and it's almost like I think you get to a certain point where the control becomes so much more. Control is always important. I'm trying to really word this properly without it coming across the wrong way, but I feel like you get to a point where control becomes even more important. Like you build like a bit of a base, and then some muscles will grow and some muscles won't grow based on your genetics, like kind of what you said about your chest. And then you get to a point where it's like, hey, you're strong now, you're lifting good weights. Now you've got to like really focus on the muscle. I don't know. Maybe if you just did that from the beginning, you would grow way faster. It's one of those things you never know. But again, it just comes down to controlling the weight. And I guess like we talk about this all the time, Denver. Like getting strong that way, it's gonna, you know, if you like you scaled all your weights back recently, right? And now they're getting back up to what they were before you scaled them.
Yeah.
And that's gonna like incline pressing 60 kilo dumbbells the way you press now compared to. I mean, you're a bad example because you always train strict, but pressing them how you press them now compared to how you pressed them a year ago, which was still really good form, it's obviously it's different. It's different. And I saw a post about Nick Walker actually, because this is how he trains. And yeah, someone said like he didn't train like this coming up. Like he's pressing 70 kilo and it's like pausing, contracting, pausing, blah, blah, blah. But when he came up, he was looser, so to speak. Still good form, but not as explosive. More explosive. Sorry. So I get the both sides of it, but yeah, it's just control your weights, guys.
Can I add a little bit in? Again, see, looking at Nick Walker, now these guys are just genetic freaks. He could do slow, he could do fast, he could do sets, drop sets. He's still going to be a monster.
Marathon running doesn't matter.
He's always trained hard. So like what I also did in my first post, what I explained was like a lot of the target audience that I was trying to get are the people that are not like amazingly blessed with genetics. You have to put the extra effort in to feel those muscles that you're trying to train. You can't just be throwing around weights and boom, you got an amazing back. No, you got to contract and then put purpose into what you're trying to do. So a lot of the people are kind of getting mixed ideas because you're looking at the 5-10% of the world. They can do whatever they want and grow those muscles. Whereas the everyday person throwing around the same kind of weight just ends up with like most people when I see row are using arms and the shoulders. Have no lat connection at all. Where it's for those people that we're trying to be like, okay, put that purpose into your lift, control the weight, squeeze, contract. And then imagine if the guys with bliss genetics did that too. The kind of results they'd get, you know? You're not trying to target anyone or anything that way.
The irony though is there's so many guys that love Nick Walker. Like I'm not a fan personally, but people love him. And I see him on their stories all the time and they love him. And I'm like, why don't you lift like him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they don't. And you think he's going to be Mr. Olympia. Why don't you like what?
But it's because they don't connect to the way that he's lifting the weight. They just look at the weight that he's lifting. That makes sense, right? So definitely. So, I mean, in my everyday coaching, I would tell people to lighten the load, focus on getting your form and execution correct. And then once you've got that, start to build the weight back up. I mean, essentially at a much lower level, exactly what you've done, Denver, over this last year, where somebody might be doing a 50 kilo dumbbell press. And I'm like, okay, so let's drop that back down to a 40 kilo or a 38 kilo or whatever. Slow the negative. So I'm sort of, I have a more, I kind of believe in a more explosive concentric, but a controlled eccentric. So it's like, I think of it as like a spring. You let that thing stretch out and then bang.
Yeah, but it's not sloppy as well. It's not sloppy. It's not
yeah, very tight, always very tight.
Yeah.
So I'll say that then once you come back up to the 50 kilo dumbbell, you're going to have that extra strength. Of course, they've got to, that's when I get people that have got a certain level of strength. When I'm training somebody in the beginning, I'm trying to get them to connect to things and just build their strength. So the programming and the execution there is slightly different. So it's still the same in the sense that it's a little bit slower, but I also understand that when somebody's just starting out training, their controllers and the feel inside the muscle isn't the same way as it is when we've been training, for somebody who's as advanced, as you, as well, I guess, as we are, right? But But yeah, I feel like what happens with people is they get caught up on the internet and they don't look at the execution, they just look at the weight. Because I certainly know that even, in my years of training with people, and I'm sure you guys have found the same thing, you train with a guy, he's relatively, he's decently jacked, and he goes, oh, well, Harry's doing this weight. I'm kind of the same size as him. Surely I can do that same kind of thing. And you're like, well, I mean, no, this is what I do. First time I go, well, listen, it's probably a little bit heavier. Maybe stay there. And then the second time I say, look, if you want to have a go. And then after that, I stop. I'm like, just do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? Just do whatever you want to do. Just don't injure yourself because I need you to change my plates. But yeah. So there's it's horses for courses. It's a hard sell. It's a very hard sell sometimes. But I feel like the people who really want to progress, we all get to the point where we go, okay, what do I do now? Because I'm sure that you got there, Denver, and I know that it's sort of in my 30s, I was like so strong, and you think, well, what do I do now? Am I going to put more? I can't put more on. I can't find heavier dumbbells. I can't do, and the risk of injury at a certain point is so high. Say if you're leg pressing and you've got a certain number of plates on there, yeah, you can really target your quads and it's great. But unless you slow things down and really start to focus on how can I specifically hit this area, all your ancillary groups just give out. You know what I mean? I'd get up after, in my 30s, I'd get up after some after a leg day, heavy leg presses, and think, man, my quads are sore, sure, but my hips are wrecked. And it's nothing to do with the form. It's literally just the loading. It's too much. So you think, okay, take some off. Same as, there's a point at which anybody who does heavy shoulder dumbbell presses, well, you tell me how you get, once you get 55, 60s, how the fuck do you get the thing up to your shoulder?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you've got two people there, and you can press them, but you can't get them in place without a lot of shimming. So there's a point at which it's like, okay, I'm going to lighten that load, so I've got that control and I can stay within and then you think, okay, now I've got 50s instead of 60s, so I'll slow them down so I'm getting the same effect and the same feeling and I can push to failure in that way versus just, okay, I've got those 60s and every part of you is like,
I think, and one thing we need to add is do not let yourself lose intensity as well, because intensity is like, if you don't have intensity, I don't care how you're training, I don't care how controlled it is, you're not going to, we put a little muscle on if you're a beginner, but you're not going to grow shit. So you need to be intense, regardless of your volume, high volume, low volume,
rep tempo.
You need to train hard. So that goes without saying. But anyway, we'll leave that. That's enough. So we're going to do this critique my physique segment, so to speak. We got 17 people, so I think we'll do 5, and we'll see how that goes. If it goes well, each time we do this, we'll do 5 or something like that. If you guys like it, keep sending them in if you want to be a part of it. I mean, you might not want to be a part of it after you watch what we say, but if you do, just send your stuff in. But anyway, we'll start. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to do this at random. I'll scroll down a little bit. Now I'm hoping you guys have photos at the top of your pages. I'm hoping you do. We'll do G Patch Fitness, the first one. It looks like comp photos. So I'll just scroll through them. You guys have a look. Go figure, obviously. So obviously this is about critiquing. So our goal here is to, obviously if we want to point out, good things about the physique, but also what we need. I mean, this is just our opinion as well, guys. Like, you don't have to take this as, set in stone, but what we think, looking at it individually, what you need to do to, get to the next level. So who wants to take the lead on this?
Go ahead, Harry.
Oh, yay, go me. Nice shape. Nice take. Is it figure?
Figure.
Trying to read.
Yeah, it looks bigger.
Figure, yeah. Nice taper. nice midsection, good conditioning through her torso. Legs, conditioning wise behind her, they're not quite up to the standard of her upper body. So she's quite, so sit on that one there, Jordan. That's a good one. So you can see she's great through the midsection, really nice little waist and a nice taper. Probably the leg conditioning could be a little better, front and back. And then I thought from the, I hate doing this because it's like, if it's my own client, I don't mind. I'll tell them to their faces, right? I would say a little bit more cap shoulders. So there's a little bit more of a line in here and just a little bit nicer separation through the delt to the arm. And then I think the back is good, a little bit shallow. I would have thought maybe through the middle back area, just a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, you see through the lower back, it's really nice. Everything's nice and tight from the waist up. I think she looks great overall, but just, I would say a little bit low, a little bit better lower to upper conditioning, and possibly a little bit more overall conditioning everywhere. And then just a bit more muscle through the back and a little bit more separation through the shoulder into the arm there. Sorry, don't fight me.
Yeah, I would just say it's a nice physique structure.
Nice, beautiful shape.
The base is there to push forward with it. Just need more muscle.
Yeah.
Bigger delts. Biggest thing that stands out to me is the delts. Need bigger delts. Obviously wider, thicker back because it's figure, but more so width. I would say personally, just because obviously, like, I think the most important thing, like one of the most important things for a figure girl is to have a crazy taper. So
just like a little bit more like the lats there.
Yeah, and then just conditioning, like just in my opinion, needed a bit longer in the diet, in the prep. I'm just assuming. I have no idea how this person prepped, but I would like to see you a bit tighter, especially from the back, but and like Harry said, in the lower body, but I think you got a very genetically good midsection as well. Don't
get me wrong, beautiful shape.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, just leaner next time, and possibly drier. But yeah, delts and back, I would say, Denver.
All right, figure. This is what my wife turned pro in. So
he knows.
We watched a lot of videos and learned a lot. Like overall, conditioning standard definitely has to be higher. Like midsection, yes, is almost like a whole league ahead of the rest of the body. And I'm guessing that's just the genetic part of you that's always going to stay quite lean. Lower body from the front and the back, I reckon more so the back compared to the front has to be a lot tighter. But size-wise, I think you're pretty sweet there. Like overall, very good balance. So I don't think you need a lot more sizing in your legs, just more conditioning. And agreeing with Jordan and Harry as well, like a lot more pop to your shoulders, a bit more roundness from the rear as well. Like from the front delt's fine, but it's just the side and the rear cap needs a lot more work. From back, mostly lat work, like you said, just to add to that V taper, not so much like in the rectors and stuff like that. You don't really have to be too dense. That muscle is a bit shallow at the moment, but I'm guessing it's early stages in your bodybuilding career, so that will come with time as well. But apart from that, doing great.
Yeah, pretty much everything we said, like in terms of shoulders, back, even the conditioning, it's all just time. Especially for a female doing figure, it's very, very hard for a figure athlete to get like crispy dry, crispy shredded. The first, even regardless of age, just the first few times they diet, unless they genetically get lean well and get dry easily. So yeah, it's going to take a few times going down, up, down, up, down, up, in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, that's our first one. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Okay, who's next? I'll do a guy next, eh? We'll keep it.
Yeah, let's do a guy.
Go to the bottom because I think it was these guys. Let's go. Bill better. Okay, who are we working with here? Oh, I didn't read. Sorry, didn't read what his weight was. In his class.
Bodybuilding. I did posing with him.
Oh, bodybuilding. Okay. 5'6".
How old is he?
Very young.
He looks young.
he's got a. I'll go first. You've got a good structure, good base. I feel like we're going to say this a lot, but you just need muscle everywhere.
Let me just add to that. Let's just add a little. Up until his current progress pictures, he's been natty.
Okay.
So this is just his first, I guess, run at PEDs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you see any pictures from the past. Up until then, like his last show last year was all natural. Well, this is probably like his initial growth spurt.
Okay. Good back on the lat spread, but the back doubles a bit shallow. I feel like part of that will come as you get lean, though. Like back doubles can be like that, and when you get lean, everything starts to pop. I feel like your waist doesn't look naturally that small, so you're gonna need to grow some big lats and big delts to create that illusion. Bigger sweep to the quads. You got quad sweep, so that's a good sign. Bigger quads will give you a bigger quad sweep, obviously. So again, it's just like we said on the last one, it's just time. But yeah, I would just honestly just size everywhere. There's obviously muscles that can be better, but I feel like at this stage, at this point in your physique, what I'm looking at, I wouldn't worry too much about trying to bring up this. I'll just bring up everything.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think he's got a bit of everything. His overall balance is quite nice. I agree with you. Like Jordan, he's looking like he's not naturally the smallest in the waist. But does he focus? Everything it looks like everything's growing. He just needs bigger legs. Just needs bigger everywhere. But I would think if he's got a bigger, thicker lats, that'll create this. And then if he gets bigger quads, it's going to create more. So it'll make his waist look a little smaller. But it looks like he doesn't. Let me say he doesn't look like there's any weakness. Everything's there. Just got to get significantly bigger.
More size. Yeah.
How much did he weigh? Did he say?
Like 90, he's pushing to the 90.
He was where is he? 88 kilo, at 5'6".
He's in reasonable condition. He looks good. I think he's I mean, if that's him, Denver. So is he looking? How is he competing, or is that just his off-season walk around?
Off season.
Oh, that's really good. That's great. Well done.
Anything to add, Denver?
One thing, like his condition is really good off season, but you should have seen him on stage last year. Natural, peeled to the bone, like just gnarly.
That's what he's walking around like.
Yeah. So off season, he's staying in really good nick. Yes,
Nice.
Both of you guys. Personally, from his physique, I feel like the part that needs to work, he needs to work on the most would be from the rear. Like
last year?
Yeah. Was that the show? I can't remember. I think that was it. Yeah.
I feel like yeah. Official stage shots. Yeah, it must be. Yeah, he just looks like a smaller version of what he is now. Funny that.
Yeah. Now what I was saying was, can you go to that picture, his off season one, to his back double back lat spread?
Yeah.
This is where I reckon he needs to put in the most amount of work. From the front, his quads are quite full, but if you actually look at like his adductors from the back,
gaps.
You can see that. Sorry, you can see that gap. And same thing. Compare the thickness in his legs from the back to his front. There's a lot more mass missing in the back compared to his front. You can see he's a lot quad dominant. So I'd say put the work into the rear part, like your hamstrings, your glutes, your adductors, and again, lat spread looks awesome. I would just like with the back double, a lot more lat work, especially.
This is almost two different people, to be honest. Like looking at these two shots.
Yes, yeah.
If it wasn't for the tattoos, like I would, and like the obviously like upper body, I'm talking about. It literally looks like two different people. So, like I said though, sometimes people's back doubles can look like that, and then once they get lean, out of nowhere, it's like whoa, like so. Who knows? But I mean, getting bigger is not going to hurt either. So,
more just more size everywhere.
Let's go to the next one. Female. Here we go. Right at the top. Cass Paulson. She's a bikini competitor.
Jordan, you're better at this than me.
Here's a stage shot. Oh, that must be an old one. So I think this girl's got a good structure. She's got potential. The conditioning is not where it should be for competition standards. I think there's another at least 8 weeks of dieting that needs to go on. But if she does, she's going to look fantastic. In terms of size, I would say she's on the. If I was coaching this girl, I would want to bring things down a little bit, especially seeing what I've seen. Just too much muscle. And I don't know how she trains. Obviously, that will, I'm not here to tell her what to do, but just in my opinion, I would change the training up to slightly maybe do specific cardio, blah, blah, blah. Just, like the shoulders are quite big, the quads are quite big, the glutes are big. And I don't mean big in a bad way, like genuine muscle. So, but at the same time, bringing the conditioning in, those things are going to shrink. So,
yeah,
that's
what I was going to say.
But I still think the structure is going to be. I still think, regardless, it's going to but a little bit on the bigger side. So bringing things down a bit, but keeping the pop, keeping the roundness. You don't want to lose that roundness in the delts, for example.
It's almost like you kind of think if she, I don't know what she weighs here, but if she got herself right down to like super great conditioning, that'll put her much more in line. And then, she's quite muscular through her shoulders and through her legs and glutes. But you wonder how much of that comes off if she's in real condition. And then maybe that brings it closer to that, in line with.
I just feel like there's like some legit muscle. So I feel.
I think she's got some great muscle. Yeah. I do think she's got some great muscle, and it would just be interesting to see what that looks like all the way down. Her shape's all day, every day bikini by the look of it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Beautiful bikini shape.
Yeah, just refine and lean.
Conditioning's
the main thing. Like even like the main thing I'm looking at here is just conditioning.
Yeah,
it needs to be tighter, drier. Obviously, just needs to prep longer. Maybe prep harder. I don't know. I don't know how she preps. I don't know. But that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think she looks great. Just so big.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. Like balance wise, she looks pretty balanced. Shoulders, arms, legs. There's not really she's not sort of like bottom heavy or top dominant or anything like that. But I reckon the main thing would be conditioning. I reckon if she dieted down a lot more, she actually looks a lot leaner there in that picture there.
I'm trying to see if there's a back shot.
Yeah. If she dieted down, I reckon like having a tighter, smaller look, because at the moment she's quite muscular. I think these are old videos.
I'm just seeing how she trained.
Yeah.
But so just the main thing there is conditioning.
Dieting down.
Then once you never truly know how you're going to look as well until you get truly conditioned, because like we're saying, they're a little bit too big, but again, if you diet down, you're going to be smaller. You just don't know how much smaller. So get peeled, come in full, obviously, get on stage, and then you'll get a better idea of where you're at. Okay. Go with this guy. This guy looks crazy. Yeah, he's like 18 weeks out in this condition. And it's like how do you for classic physique, like I was thinking like he's too like my only critique for this guy that I can see, you guys might be able to think something. Like the only negative I can see, this is so balanced, like this is ridiculously balanced. Just maybe the biceps, like the insertions are a bit, I don't know, like maybe if I'm being like ultra picky, which you can't change, even that's like I'm clutching at straws here. The only thing I can say is he's not like he's a short guy, like he's small, so you don't know how he's going to look in a lineup until if he's next to heavily muscled guys in the classic lineup, they might not have as good a structure, but if they're in shape, if they're peeled and they've got bigger, the small guy can sometimes disappear. I'm not in any way saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's a possibility. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, maybe being this tight, this far out from a show, you could be eating a bit more. You might come in 2 kilo heavier if because you're going to be peeled. Obviously, he's super disciplined. But then he can't because the weight cap. I think the weight cap's I think he's about.
I don't know. What's the weight cutoff for him?
I asked him, and he thinks it's 79 kilo. So he's about
Okay.
3 kilos
Not
above
far
stage
off.
weight. But I mean, he'll grow into the show being this lean. So I mean, he could compete in 6 weeks if he competed in probably 4 weeks if you really wanted to. So yeah, that's all I can really say. Like as a physique, I mean, but a little bit wider in the lats. Could be definitely wider in the lats. There, that's pretty much all I have. And just seeing what it's like, you know, being next to the big guys. Because I've seen guys in the past. There's a few guys in New Zealand who have amazing structures, like real round muscle, but they're real small, like as in real short. And they disappear and they don't place well. So, am I saying that's going to happen? No. Once again, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, very, very impressive physique.
Yeah, I've been following this guy a little bit recently, and he's put together really well. Everything's some of his poses like this ab and thighs, ridiculous. It's crazy. His front double biceps, amazing. I think great taper. He's got everything. I mean, I guess I would say he's what 81.8, 82 kilos, 3 kilos over, and he's got 18 weeks to go. So my only thing would be, okay, he's got to play a bit of a balancing act so he doesn't start to get a bit catabolic, lose a bit of muscle he doesn't need to lose, because at the end of the day, he's very, very close to being contest conditioning. And I think maybe his back, when I just look through that middle back and where his erectors tie into his lats and stuff, they could be, everything there could be a bit more poppy. But again, he's 18 weeks. I mean, that's going to look completely different by the time the show rolls around. I'm very impressed with this guy's physique. I've been following, looking at his photos going, gee, I actually don't, I look at it and I'm like, he's got to be short, really short, because it ain't 81 kilos. It's not 82 kilos. It doesn't look like it. You know what I mean? Beautiful illusion of, it's crazy. Yeah, he looks crazy.
And he's been lean like all year, so I don't think he will run the risk of like overkill. You know what I mean? Like I'm assuming because he's been lean all year, he's probably eating a lot. He's probably just chilling, really. But yeah, all I can say is back could be what I would like to see the back wider. If I was gonna pick something, but
More
other
depth.
than that, yeah, more depth, but width, thicker, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But other than that, like
Yeah.
it's a impressive physique, man.
What do you think, Denver?
You tell us.
Okay, just my opinion here. Like personally, like looking at his physique, I reckon, I mean, especially if he's like 3 kgs off, like I feel like he's limiting himself by doing classic physique. I feel like I would put him in bodybuilding, like, and not limit his weight cap, because if this is his condition at 81 and he's got to be 79, I'm like, he could grow into the show. He could put on a few kilos on this frame. I mean, he'd be an amazing 2-on-2 competitor. I feel he's got beautiful shape. I mean, but that doesn't take away, like bodybuilders can still have good shape, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like I personally feel like I get more like 2-on-2 vibes here, because I feel like he can grow so much more with 18 weeks. Again, with critiquing like what he needs to improve on, honestly looks amazing, pretty complete. Only thing I'd say would be like a little bit more on the lower lat from the rear, and also say that just that mid upper back region, just with like the rows and stuff like that. I feel like you could get a lot more, like Harry said, a bit more pop through compared to the rest of your body. That could pop a lot more. But I can't wait to see this guy done.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm excited to see what he looks like.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I think he'll be a 2-on-2 guy, sure, 100%. Even though the weight limit for the pros is, I think, a bit more. I think as knowing this guy, I think that's probably his long term goal. I imagine his goal is to get a pro card in classic physique and then move up when the time's right, kind of thing.
But if you look at his hashtags, he says class physique and then he says bodyboarding underneath. So maybe he's hinting towards us.
Yeah, I feel like his goal. We've had a few conversations. I feel like his goal was probably to 2-on-2, and I mean, this guy will go well in whatever.
I think he's a freak.
He was a very good powerlifter back in the day too.
Oh, I don't need to hear he's strong as well. Let's move on.
How many have we done?
We've done
Let's do another one.
3.
Yeah, let's do this one.
This is actually one of my clients. We're working together for 6 weeks, so I'm not gonna. She knows what I think, so I'm gonna let you guys. It's a little bit dark, but you get the idea. She's a figure girl, competing in. I can't remember how many weeks it is. I think it's 14 weeks. When was this photo posted? May 2nd. She's in Christchurch.
Okay.
First show, novice.
Okay. She's quite petite, isn't she? Short.
She's very short. Yeah, she's short.
Okay. So I think she's got, for novices, she's got a nice amount of muscle. She's got a nice shape. I mean, there's just a lot of work to do there with conditioning, right? So, and how long did you say? 14 weeks.
This was in May. This was May 2nd. These photos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So actually, because I follow her, so I see some of her more recent stuff. Yeah, I think she looks like she's going along great. I think it's hard to tell exactly until we see what she's like in real condition. But the structure's there. A little bit bottom heavy, I would say, just judging from the photos. But I feel like once that conditioning comes in, that all changes. It's just I think for novices, if she looks petite, like short. Sorry, I shouldn't say small. But she looks short. I think I see her training and stuff, and I'm quite interested to see what she looks like really in shape. That's amazing, the transition, yeah. But I think there's definitely I think there's potential there, but I think that in time, I don't know. I feel like once she starts to put the muscle on, that she's going to need to be super competitive in that division. Her physique, to me, doesn't really scream figure. It screams more like almost small physique. Do you know what I mean?
She's she's definitely genetically she's only young.
Yeah,
but genetically,
she looks
and she trains hard. So genetically, she puts muscle on. She's everyone's got strengths, right? And I had this conversation with her. Everyone's got strengths, and her strength is that she can put muscle on well. Her weakness is that for her to get in condition, she's going to have to fight harder than the average competitor. Like her genetic, you can tell looking at the photos. Like, you know what I mean? You can tell when someone is someone who responds easier to a deficit. So it's probably going to take a few preps to really get that crispy. Considering she sticks with it, coming down, going back up, coming down, going back up, coming down, and every time you go down, obviously you get a bit leaner. It's the same when you go up. So yeah, and like I said, it's only been 6 weeks, so I don't know what I know a little bit of what she was doing prior, but I don't know much. So obviously doing a full structured off season, transitioning to a prep is always more beneficial than just jumping straight into a prep. But the structure's there, nice structure. She's got a very wide back. That photo doesn't really do her back much justice, to be honest. Going by the check-ins I usually get, like her back is very wide, and she's got good.
Yeah, I've seen other stuff of her. Yeah, I think
that going by that photo, it doesn't really show how her back looks, but yeah, just needs time. Just needs time, in my opinion. Emma?
Upper body, honestly, I think she's got like great taper, small waist, shoulders are really capped from the front. I reckon more of the work in the rear delt region, if you compare that from like front and rear, like there's a lot more dominant in the front compared to the rear. So I'd say more work there. And I see predominantly most of the work I'd say would be glute hemi for her overall physique wise, just because if you look at figure, you don't really want big glutes. You don't want them to pop too much. They prefer a much tighter look. So I feel like that's going to be her stubborn area, and it's going to need a lot of work to bring that down into comp ready condition. Front on, she looks a lot leaner in the quads. So I feel like there's not a whole lot of size that needs to be gained there, more condition. So predominant work I'd say would be waist down from the rear, and just a bit of shoulders from the rear as well.
And honestly, that feedback's very typical to what a lot of, especially figure girls early on, a lot of them are going to get that critique. So we'll do one more, and then we'll move on to some questions. So we've got a lot of questions. One more. Harry, pick someone.
Me. Let's go. Let's go, Aiden.
All right, we'll go Aiden. All right. So this is someone who has really adopted the lift with purpose.
To be fair, I'm just impressed by his hair.
Yeah. Not talk about
listen, I'm impressed by anybody that's still got hair.
He's got a good physique. He needs to stop shooting his delts. I'm just gonna say it. Needs to stop shooting his delts. But in terms of the physique, it's it's balanced. Like there's muscles like needs a little bit more chest, but like I said earlier, for this guy, everything's there. He trains like a psychopath. It's everything this guy wants to achieve will happen. It's just going to be time because he's got the mindset, and he does have a nice structure. He just needs size everywhere. Just as you can see, like just needs muscle everywhere. Not that he doesn't have muscle. He's got muscle, and he can also diet, and he can also get peeled.
Yeah.
So my only critique is stop shooting doubts and just keep working hard and just put muscle everywhere. That's pretty much it. I think conditioning for off season is fine. Possibly looks a little like there's a little bit of inflammation going on, I would say. I don't know if that's to do with the food or whatever, but I mean that's just going by photos. Yeah, you guys, anything? What do you want to add?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same as you would say about that. Like so obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I've been following this guy since he competed last year, the last show that he did, and I think he's doing great. He's really put on a lot of size. He's very consistent with all the aspects of his training off season and definitely pre-contest. Dude knows how to get shredded and works like a crazy guy. I guess what I would look at is he's so strong. So if you look at his stuff, he's so strong, and I'd be the fact that he's adopting this, full range of motion and lifting with purpose, best thing he could do, because he's at the point where the weights he's lifting are starting to get to a little bit ridiculous, and you're millimeters away from permanent injury, and then there's that.
That was before the lift with purpose. Before.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was very impressed by that. What are you trying to do 50 with 3 plates?
Oh, that's funny. Anyway,
yeah. So I'm very impressed by his physique, and I think he's got a good future in New Zealand bodybuilding. The work ethic is great. Everything's there. Without being insulting, I would say there's nothing freaky on him, but there's nothing missing either. So he's got to just continue to go, get bigger, chase, get bigger, get shredded for the next comp, get bigger, get shredded, and eventually it's going to happen.
Cool. Denver.
All right, I've been talking to him for a little bit since he started this whole lifting with purpose thing. One thing I gotta say about him, like he's young and he's willing to learn. I feel like the ego isn't there, and I feel like that's gonna be such a good help for him. Like I feel like there's so many guys coming up that just like if they took on like his attitude with training and learning, they like make big leaps in their off season. Like they're watching him lift like in the last couple of weeks. Like he's already strong, he's got the foundation, but like he's really slowing shit down, making shit hard, using the right muscles. So I feel like it's only a matter of time with him if he keeps this sort of mindset and not let the bullshit of the fitness industry get to him. I can see him doing really well. Like there's not a whole lot missing. Overall growth, yes. I'd say his weakest pose would probably be his back double. Again, I reckon if you start connecting with those muscles and not just focusing on moving poundage, which he has been doing in the last couple of weeks, I feel like it's going to make a massive difference the next time you step on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't think he's someone who gets too caught up in all the bullshit. I think he just genuinely is a meathead in a good way that just wants to lift hard, get jacked, and he's a good guy. So I look forward to seeing where he goes with it. I'm sure he'll exceed he'll achieve everything that we think he will. So anyway, that concludes this part. Back to our pretty faces. So we've got a lot of questions, guys. We've got a lot of questions, and if you enjoyed that and you want to take part in that, I probably won't keep putting posts up. I'll just keep the one and just put your details in the thread, but just please make sure that your page is not private if I don't follow you, and also please make sure that when I click on your page that you've got either comp photos or recent check-in photos at the top of your page. So, you know, like a few people were doing it and there's just selfies. Like we can't look at a selfie and critique your physique. It's just, we're not going to do that. It's not what we're here for. So anyway, we got some good questions. So we'll get through them. The first one, when your food is high and your weight is going up, but you're staying lean, is the majority of that water? No. If your weight's going up and you're staying lean, that means you're putting on a combination of muscle, glycogen, and obviously there's always going to be a bit of water. So no. I mean, if you're putting on weight and you're getting sloppy, it's probably fat and water. But if you're staying lean, I can tell you there's some muscle going on for sure. And that's the whole point of eating a lot and, you know, staying lean. So yeah, that was a bit of a weird one, but I just wanted to, yeah.
Well, I'll say something. I'll add to that a little bit, right? Because it's something that I've noticed with some of the lifestyle people that I've done over the years, especially recently. So what I find is that when you know, everyone knows this from post comp, when you're in a heavy deficit, you're purposely depleted all your glycogen stores so that your body starts to get into its body fat, blah 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 blah, all of that. So when you start coming up again, initially a good percentage of that. So it's all. I would suggest that in relation to that question from that person, it's time frames. So if they're like, oh look, I put on 10 kilos, but I competed 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so a good percentage of that's just going to be because your electrolytes are balanced out, your muscles are full of glycogen again, attracting more water, everything's looking nice and full and hard. If it's over a period of time, then yeah, you're laying down tissue. So I guess the time frame for me is what sort of answers that question more than, you know, otherwise, yeah, like what else could possibly be happening? I would say
this guy's just talking about like he's not a competitor.
In general, then he's putting on tissue.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on from that one. Have any of you guys ever used good mornings in your routines? I'm interested. I hate them.
I have.
You like them? You like them? I hate them.
No, I don't like them. I was doing them because I'm 1,000 years old, and lots of guys did them. Yeah. And we wouldn't do. So I would do good mornings 1 week, straight leg deadlifts the next back workout, weighted hyperextensions the one after that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I find there's I just didn't enjoy the movement at all. You can do them standing, you can do them seated. Every version of them sucks.
I just found like I've done them less than 10 times in my life, and I found like when I'm doing them, there's so much concentration that's going into not snapping myself, but not like, you know, you always focus doing a lift. It's a different kind of focus. And I did hurt myself once doing them years and years ago. I just feel like I would much rather do like an RDL personally or a stiff leg.
I'm the same. So I used to find that sitting the bar across your neck, even without that much load on it, but you just put 60 kilos on it. I mean, I suppose that's a decent load. And then you're doing them just actually sitting in that position. And as you're coming forward, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's pushing you forward. Denver?
Yeah.
I feel like you have done them. I see you as someone who would have done them.
I've definitely done them, but not a fan. I feel like the risk to reward is just it's not worth it.
So high.
Like once you start getting a bit strong in that, I'm just like, you're asking to get injured, especially like your back.
I feel like the reward is not the same as even an RDL. Like the RDL risk, the risk of an RDL is so much lower, but also the reward's way higher. I see it like that anyway. Yeah.
Okay, I like how Denver says once you get a little bit of strength, once I got up to 4 plates for 15, this is getting dangerous.
How often does a first timer nail it on stage?
Ooh.
Not often.
Not often,
but it does happen. Just like, it's not. They don't. A first timer doesn't often. It depends what you mean by nail it too. Like what standard are we talking here? Because when I think nail it, I just think of someone getting in really good shape. I don't think of like necessarily they have to be an amazing competitor. I just think of their conditioning as like as lean as they can be for their class, and their peak goes well and whatever. That's all I think. And for that to happen for a first timer, it does happen, but it's not something that happens that often for a number of reasons. Either one, because mentally they can't push things, or 2, they haven't given themselves enough time because they got no experience, or 3, they've just got a stubborn body that just doesn't respond that well, and it's just going to take time, and they need to build more muscle to to have that look. And Emma?
Again, first time competitors, I feel like a big part of that would be, are you doing it yourself, or are you getting coached? I feel like most times if you're a first time competitor and you're prepping yourself, I feel like unless you really know your body and you're like really genetically blessed that you can just get shredded off the bat, like quite lean. I feel like most first time competitors doing it themselves are going to miss the mark. Whereas ones that do have coaches guiding them and telling them when to back off, when to push, are going to have a higher chance of coming in much better form. Might not be just shredded to the bone, but like you said, very lean for their category.
Well,
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, I also think a lot of that has to do with the starting point. So somebody who's naturally fatter guy or girl, the likelihood of them showing up at their first show crisp is, they can get in shape, but even if they get even if they get their body fat down, I guess this is what you're talking about, Jordan. You go up and down, right? Even if they get their body fat down, the skin's not tight. The separation between the muscles isn't there because there isn't enough muscle for it to happen. So unless somebody's genetically very lean, because obviously the same as you, I think when somebody says nail it, it's just conditioning. So I've seen guys and girls rock up to shows and just be really, really super shredded. But that tended to be that was more their body type versus, the sort of heavier bodies. But then, first timers, gosh, you can also go to a show and a guy rocks up as a novice who's been training for 15 years in his garage, right? It's huge. And then they nail it. They do, they've already got so much muscle. So, but yeah, in general, yeah, very difficult. It's probably 1 in 100 or
but
more, 1 in 1,000.
The thing is, if you are a first timer and you're watching this and you obviously want to do the best you can, as Denver said, like, just make sure you have a coach that you know has a track record that you're happy with, that's worked with people like yourself, and give them time to actually work with you. Don't go to them and be like, hey, I want to prep, and even like, don't even be like, hey, in 20 weeks I want to prep, because that's not that long. Like, people think, 20 weeks is long. It's a good amount of time to prep, but there's no pre-prep. So as we've said in previous episodes, just give them time. Give them time. Work hard. Follow what they say, and you're going to give yourself the best chance. But anyway, I've got a good question. This is a good one. I'm quite interested to hear what you guys say about this one. Thoughts on training a muscle 1 time per week versus 2 to 3 times per week? Obviously, it's going to depend on the muscle. And obviously, there's circumstances here. But what's your take on it? No, I'm going to change it because it's too open-ended. I'm going to say a weak muscle. Thoughts on training a weak muscle 1 time per week or 2 to 3 times per week?
All right, I'll start. I reckon first thing would be the category. Are they male or female? Because I feel like a bodybuilder, like if you were to push yourself to failure and maximize your session, I can't see myself training quads again that week. There's no way. I'm literally getting to the next week, and almost the day before my leg day, I'm just recovering. So I feel like a lot of that comes down to intensity with your training as well. So I feel like if you're pushing yourself hard enough, you should need the time to recover. But at the same time, you said if it's a lagging muscle and they like, I feel like if they're a newer competitor coming up, especially like for a girl doing wellness or something like that, really need to bring her glutes and legs up, I feel like you could hit that multiple times a week. I do feel like they are able to recover a bit faster, maybe just because of the loading as well. I feel like it might not be as heavy as we would do. Not taking away from girls lifting heavy, by the way. Yeah, they're strong as well.
Yeah, obviously it depends on the muscle. Like,
yeah. If it's a smaller muscle or a bigger group as well.
With that quad example, like, I agree 100%. And I always, like, a lot of it comes down, like, a lot of this has come, we all know this, like, a lot of the time it's not how many times you're training, it's because you're never actually training the muscle properly. But we'll pretend that's not part of it. We pretend they're training with good form and they're training hard. So with the quad thing, like, if you had a quad day, for example, you may if you have a quad day, you're obviously going to have a hamstring day, and then those days will be separate. So maybe on the end of the hamstring day, you might do like leg extensions, like 4 sets of leg extensions at the end, just put blood in them. But I wouldn't go into a full quad. You can't. If you train your quads hard, there's no way you can do them even twice a week. But then there's some muscles you can. So for example, when I'm coaching, say, a wellness competitor, a lot of the time I'll have them do, say, like a quad and glute day, a hamstring and glute day, and then maybe like a posterior day, which that's technically they're training their glutes 3 times a week. They're also training their hamstrings twice a week. But it all comes down to the volume within those sessions as well. There's going to be a lot of volume on the quad day and the glute day, but then on that third day, it's more of a touch-up, kind of like the example I just gave with quads. So it does depend on the muscle. And it also depends on the category. For example, when you're coaching a wellness girl, like, you're very limited to what you can actually give them outside of the leg training, because if their upper body's taking off too much, you don't want that. So it's like, well, I don't want any of them to only go to the gym 3 days a week. So you've got to be smart with how where you place things. But yeah, so I think we pretty much see the same thing, but just in different words. Harry?
I just think it's related. It depends on the body part. Again, so focusing on a weak area. I mean, I guess if my legs were weak, I might work out how I could.
Don't act like you know what it'd be like.
Get them done. Yeah, I know. I know, but I used to squat twice a week. So I think you condition yourself to it, right? But say, for example, my arms are really poor. So I do arms and triceps. I do biceps and triceps twice a week. But I don't. I focus really heavily on form, just getting the pump, pushing out those extra reps. But also, you can train your biceps until your arm's going to fall off, and they'll be good to go again in 3 or 4 days. You just got to know that timing. As long as your nutrition and everything's revolves around recovery. But yeah, so arms, sure, you probably get away with training shoulders twice a week, but chest, back, and legs, very difficult. Although what I have found with, say, something like chest, if I'm trying to get somebody to bring it up, I will have I might have a day where a full chest workout, and then later on in the week, say they're doing shoulders, I might say, okay, so after shoulders, I want you to do, instead of doing the big compound movements, let's just do a contracted movement. So the same as you would do a leg extension after hamstrings and calf straps, I'd say, okay, so let's just do a whole bunch of crossovers or pec flies or something that just targets on that specific muscle without working all the supportive and ancillary muscles. And so sometimes I'll do things. I mean, I find that's kind of effective. If I'm trying to get somebody to bring their back up, I might say, okay, so on another day, say we're doing hamstrings, I might say, let's do straight arm pull downs, some very strict pull downs, and maybe a supported row where, and then I always put tempo in my training. So then I'll change the tempo to slow the reps up, slow the negatives up, which limits the loading. So yeah. I mean, you can do it. You just have to be really smart about it, and you have to track that person's. So I still track the progress, and I'll say, okay, so on this day you're doing, if it's your ancillary, like your extra chest day, how is that going weight wise, reps wise, this wise? And if there's no progress there, and then the other day's falling back, I'm like, okay, we need to back off that. You have to really monitor when somebody's doing multiple workouts for the same body part, you really have to monitor their thing. And I think that applies a lot more to guys. I don't know, women just seem to have a higher tolerance for training and pain.
I think one thing I've noticed over the years is something real beneficial. You mentioned back, and it reminded me, I like to do for a lot of my guys, and depending on the class, some females, I like to do like a back width day where it's like your pull downs, your straight arm pull downs, even like sometimes one arm rows, and then a thickness day where you're doing like your barbell rows, deadlifts, seated row, all your row movements. So just splitting them up, I find that works real well, as long as there's enough room in between. So like say a Monday and a Thursday, I find that works real well. And then other muscles, like you said, delts, again, like working with lots of female competitors, wellness / bikini, it's an important muscle. So they might have like if they're trying to bring them up, have like a shoulder day, and then later in the week, they might say train their arms, and then same thing you did with the chest. So I just do lateral raises at the end, just blow them up. Just an isolation movement. So it can be done. It's just you just got to be a bit. You got to think about how logic. Anyway, moving on. Reaching your genetic potential before taking PEDs. How do you know when you've reached it? So you're never going to know because no one knows. Like, that's the most... People always go, reach your genetic potential. But what is it? Like, okay, wait till you're 35, and then by then your career's done. So I'm not saying take PEDs, but, like, don't... Like, that I feel like that concept is so... It's, like, not... It's not, like... What it should be is, like, build it... If you want to go down that road, build a good, solid foundation, a good base. Make sure you actually want to commit to this lifestyle, and then consider that. But don't get rid of this like I'm going to reach my genetic potential, because you never really know when you're going to reach your genetic potential. Like, it's just a guess. Like, what do you do? Like, wake up one day, look yourself in the mirror, and be like, I'm here, I'm there. Yeah, I've reached it. That's me.
Yeah,
like, I can't get any bigger. I can't get any bigger. Like,
I got there when I was young. I think that so from my perspective, because I get that a lot, right? Like, I in fact, I used to think that way when I was in my early 20s. But I think the first thing to do is, just get all your ducks in a row. Get your training 100%, get your nutrition 100%, get your supplementation 100%. If you're doing all of those things right, and you're progressing at a rate, so I think it comes down to a rate that you're progressing at a rate that is measurable and you're kind of happy with. And then there's a point at which it all starts to stall a little bit. I mean, I can tell you exactly when I made the decision that I made. I had started competing, first year competing. I did quite well. And then I think I looked at the guys that I was competing against and who were gassed. And I thought, you know what, I've done well here natural. My goal is to be competitive like at this other level. So I'm going to do the things that they're doing, that everyone else is doing, to try to see if I can escalate myself. It wasn't like I've maxed out on my potential. Like, I probably could have just kept on training and made these, snail pace gains. I feel like it's more a decision that you make based on the level of competition you want to go to and how you're doing at the level. Does that make sense? I don't want to say it too much because guys are going to think, just take steroids, you're going to get better. Well, that's not the truth either, because I feel like genetic potential is apparent early on. But I think it's just get everything else right, then do it. And then, but you'll make it there's just going to come to a point when guys are just going to make that decision. Like, okay, so I'm stalling here. But when you're stalling, ask yourself why. Am I stalling because I'm lazy? Am I stalling because I'm not consistent with my eating? Am I stalling because I'm, not going to sleep till 1 o'clock every morning? Or am I doing all of those things right? And now's a good time for me to think about what else I need to be adding in. For the most part, there's always something you can tweak that's going to bring you up. But my personal thing when I talk to guys about that is, it should, like, I think of it as a competitive decision. So you're competing, and are you gonna enter a motorcycle race with your push bike? I don't know. That's me anyway.
Drug addict.
Realist. I think we call that a realist, bro.
All right. I'd say, yeah. Going of what Harry said, I'd say definitely, like, how's your training? Are you consistent with your training? How are your meals? Are you getting your meals in through the day, or are you just eating when you can eat? Are you getting the right amount of sleep? Once you've got all those boxes ticked off and you're nailing all those, I feel like just even naturally nailing all those things, you're going to get amazing results. So I'd say biggest step would be build a foundation. Deadlifts, squats, all your compound movements, just get strong at them. Forget about like the whole overthinking everything. Just stick to the basics and just add meat to your frame. I feel like once you're never gonna reach your point and be like, I feel like I've reached my potential. No, but like I'm just saying is like, don't start your journey on bodybuilding by thinking, ooh, PEDs, I need to do that first. Like get a base and then take the next step.
Yeah. And
I think too many people look at it as a stopgap.
Answered that horribly, because the actual question was, how do I know when I've reached my genetic potential?
You don't. Okay, the question is, you don't know when you've reached it.
You don't. You'll never know. Like you're like I said, you're not just gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm there. Unfortunately. Okay.
I think we focused on the jumping on PEDs, but
yeah, I know
genetic potential.
You guys did.
Well, because I think what happened is the one guy that's not jumping on PEDs the second day he joins the gym is the one who sent that message in. Sorry, bro.
It was actually a female that asked me that question.
Oh, in that case,
trying to do it. Is pre-exhausting quads with leg extensions a good idea before squats? I personally think it's a great idea. That's what I do. I find if I don't do that, my knees aren't happy. So it's a good warm-up for the knees, and just puts some blood in the muscle. And I like it. I personally like it. You guys?
I'm the same. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I actually squat. Generally, it's my last compound. It's my last big movement in a workout. So I'll probably do squats, leg press, hack squat, something else. You know, I'll probably do leg extensions definitely, and then generally some kind of leg pressing movement, either inverted leg press or even a hack squat. And then I might squat at that point, or I might do another movement and then squat. So yeah, I think it's I pretty much do all of my movements before I squat because I like to make sure that everything's warmed up. I mean, at the end of the day, if your goal is hypertrophy, then doing leg extensions before you squat, like guys, I think that's going to take away from my power. Well, dude, if that's going to take away from your power, you don't have any power. But it warms everything up. It switches you on. It switches me on mentally, and then I feel it when I'm squatting.
It's important. Did you do anything before that 6-plate squat the other day?
Hey, I prayed. Yeah, no, I did leg extensions and standing leg curls.
Oh yeah.
He just made that up, by the way.
I was like when you posted it, I was real busy and I just watched it and I thought it was 5 plates because that's normal. And you only did 1 rep. And I was like, you wouldn't post this if you did 1 rep of 5 plates. So I was like, fuck off. And I paused it and I'm like, 6 fucking hell. Yeah. There's context behind that as well. It's not something he would normally do, guys.
No, definitely not something I would normally do.
Denver?
Definitely. I'm a fan of it. Definitely, you know that as well. Like I'd love getting a lot of blood into my quads before doing any sort of like whether it's hacks or squats or leg press or anything like that. I feel like one thing, the biggest help I feel like is just getting blood and warming up your knees and stuff like that, especially before heavy loads. So I'd say yeah, I would definitely incorporate that.
It's not even that I like it. It's like I need it. Or I can't. Like my knees will feel like they're going to explode. So
like the more you do it and the further you get in your career, I feel like the more beneficial it is to do that. You can probably get away with less of it when you start out, whereas you start to get little niggles as you go along, and it's definitely a lot more beneficial to warm things up before getting started.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, as someone's coach, would you ever tell them if you don't think that they can make it as a bodybuilder because of their frame/insertions? Or do you believe anyone can do it with dedication and training, or hard training, and someone who follows the plan? So this is open-ended because this depends on what you mean by make it. I mean, as a coach, I tell people all the time, like I get inquiries all the time from people that want to do, hey, I want to do NZIPB figure. And I'm like, well, we can do bikini, but you can't do figure because you don't have muscle. It happens all the time, and that's not that. The thing is, they see the class and they're like, "Well, that's what I want to look like." Well, that's awesome because it's a cool class. We can do it. We just can't do it in 16 weeks because you just don't have the physique for it. So, I know you guys are the same. I have no problem telling someone, no, not yet. But if you're patient, yes. And I think that's what any coach who doesn't do that, it's not coaching. That's just telling them what they want to hear because you're either scared or you want to be paid. That's how I look at it. But in terms of can anyone be good, like depends what you mean. Every single person has a different idea of good, and every single person has a different ceiling they can reach based on your genetics. So, like at the same time, I believe pretty much anybody, if they're consistent and they're truly dedicated and they dedicate 10 years of their life to bodybuilding and they properly do it and they train like they mean it, anyone can be a good amateur, pretty much, unless there's something wrong. Like if you dedicate 10 years of your life to bodybuilding, to any class, and you can't be at least a good amateur, I think there's you were doing the wrong stuff coming up. But in terms of going past that, everyone's got a different ceiling, and I'm sure you guys are going to probably agree with that.
What do you think, Denver?
Wait, can you repeat that question again? I just wanted to make sure I don't just get half of it and not the beginning part.
So as someone's coach,
Yeah.
would you tell them if you don't think they can make it in bodybuilding based on like their frame and their incisions, or do you believe anyone can do it with the right dedication / follows the plan / trains hard?
Yeah, I feel like, again, bodybuilding as such, I mean, like every other sport, is genetic based as well. So like there is a big part of it that's going to kind of limit you in certain factors to reach a certain level. So I feel like being honest with your client, I feel like that's a good thing, not giving them like hopes and dreams that they're never going to happen. I'd rather be real with them and tell them, okay, like we can create a look that will look good on stage, but at the same time, you are going to have certain limitations as to certain muscle groups. For example, it could be a bicep insertion. Like, I'm not going to tell him he's going to end up having amazing peaks by doing preacher curls, like it's just not going to happen, So I do feel like being honest with your clients starting out, and kind of getting them level-headed as to what to expect moving forward is a good thing.
From my perspective, I kind of look at it as a step-by-step thing, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, Harry, this is what I want to do, and I want to be a pro bodybuilder, and I might not say to them, well, it's not going to happen. Instead, what I might say is, look, there's steps. How about we look at, let's look at where you're at now and let's try to progress that up to a certain level. And then I will explain to them that at every level, it's more and more difficult. Sometimes I think that anybody can have a great physique from where they started. So what somebody starts with to what they can walk around with in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. By the time they get to, like you say, 10 years dedicated, they're going to have an incredible physique. They might not have, it might be a guy with narrow shoulders or a lady that's bottom heavy, this and that. Those things, they can create an amazing physique. But at the end of the day, those shortcomings that were present at the start are going to be just present at there. There's no getting around some things. But that doesn't mean they can, again, I guess it comes down to what you were saying, Jordan, about people's potential. It doesn't come down to, it's hard to say what level they're going to say is successful, like, because the further up you go, as we've said many times, it's the game of genetics. Would I tell somebody that I'll have somebody come to me, and if they say, I want to do a show in 16 weeks, I'll look at them, and I've often, and I'm sure we all have gone, no, that's not a long enough time frame. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in between now and you being ready for the show that, the division that you want to do. Again, somebody might say, I want to do this division. And I might say, well, I don't think that's the best division for you for X, Y, Z reason. Maybe we can work on those things, or maybe you can do this division. I mean, it's a hard one because I don't, generally like to tell people that something's not going to happen. But I'm not going to bullshit somebody. So if somebody says I want to be Mr. Olympia and their genetics suck, I'm going to say, well, your genetics probably aren't ideal for that. So maybe let's focus on just having the best physique in the gym before we start thinking about having the best physique in the world. I don't know. It's a hard one. I'm happy to tell somebody that I think they need a longer time frame. I'm happy to explain to somebody all the work they need to do to get to the lowest of the levels of competition. So they're local, for us over here would be like a regional title, whatever. So just one of those sort of state things. I'm happy to have those conversations with them. I don't really feel like that's just being honest, but it's very hard. Look, if somebody comes to me after 10 years and says, I want to be a pro bodybuilder, and they've been competing for 6 years and it hasn't happened for them, and they're doing all the things that you think they should be doing, then I'm like, dude, stop. Enough of that. Let's just focus on being a healthy individual and maybe setting up trying to build a physique that you're happy with, or change your expectation.
Save your kidneys.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
We'll do one more question and we'll wrap it up. We got a lot today. We'll finish with why do you think some people have very weak mindsets when trying to achieve their goals? Now, this doesn't have to be bodybuilding related because they never specified. And I'm assuming they mean kind of fitness related, but I think we'll open it up. And I think, just me personally, obviously feel quite strongly on this subject. I think there's so many reasons why someone can have a weak mindset. One, what they're trying to achieve might just not be important to them. Is their why for wanting to do it is probably not right. Or it can come down to things like just not having enough pride in what you're doing. Like that's how I see it. Like if you have a goal, obviously we'll just use the bodybuilding prep example because everyone can relate to it. Like if you know you're getting on stage, I've never been able to understand how people can be okay with getting on stage knowing they gave 75% to the process, knowing they're going to be standing up there being judged by everyone. And, if you're not in shape, everybody knows that you didn't work that hard. People say it. This is what people say. He didn't suffer. She didn't suffer. She didn't suffer. I don't like that word suffer, but that's the terminology that's used. Versus if you get up there and you've done everything you need to do, you can stand up there with pride, knowing I did everything I needed to do, and everybody knows I did everything I needed to do, and I'm proud of myself. So I don't know. I've always just felt like when people can't stick to something that they say they want to do, it's either they just don't care about it, or they just don't have enough pride in not just with themselves, but with what they're doing. I see it as a pretty straightforward thing, personally. I don't know about you guys.
I think the same. So I think it's all about importance. So it's how important that thing is to you. One of the conversations that I have with a lot of my clients, because what you'll notice, I'm sure that you see this as well, is that I'll notice that people who are very successful and very diligent and very hardworking in other aspects of their life fall over when it comes to their personal lives, their personal, their fitness, their this and that, right? So, and it's, to me, I try to explain to them, it's just a level of priority. If you treat it as a secondary thing, that's all it's going to be. And then what'll happen is it'll always be the back burner. I was too busy to do this. I was too busy to do that. Now, we might say, from our perspective, that's just like a bit of an excuse and a cop out and whatever. But perhaps from there, it literally to them, it's not as important as, something else that's work related, or, I certainly know that at this stage in my life, I make a lot of concessions based on my family life. And you can't, there probably isn't a way in which somebody says to me, oh, Harry, the best thing we could do is go and train at this gym that's an hour drive away. Best gym around. All the guys go there. It's amazing. We'll make all these connections. I'm not going to spend that time that I should be. I'll just make do with what I've got at the gym that I've got. So, whereas 25-year-old me would have gone, how far? Of course I'm there. I'll meet you there. What time? Do you know what I mean? So there's that sort of thing where people try to find it. There's that. And then some people they don't realize how hard the work's going to be. So they grossly underestimate what needs to be done. And they don't come into it, with a realistic expectation, I guess. So they fall over in that sense as soon as it starts to get a little bit hard. They're not used to being challenged, I guess. I feel like the people who are best suited to it have some kind of physical sporting background, because I tend to find that they're more used to they're more able to go, okay, I'm going to sacrifice this or I'm going to sacrifice that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's mindset, and it's where their head's at. I would say most people, their head's just not in it. Like, so when somebody tells me I want to start a prep and then everything falls over for them, I'm like, this isn't the time. Obviously, this isn't the right time for you to do that. You need to make sure that when the time's right, do it. But I can feel it as a coach. I sense it pretty early on, and then I'm like, okay, stop. But now's enough. No more throwing money down this toilet. Stop. I'm putting effort in. We're both wasting our time. Let's just back off. And, you want to do something when you're serious, let me know. Or if you hate my guts, bad luck. See you later.
For me personally, I feel like, just talking about myself first, like I feel like a lot of my mindset comes from my upbringing, from my dad. He's an athlete, always has been an athlete. Same with my mom as well. So I feel like a lot of that kind of passed down to me. So like, no matter what I did, I was always competitive. I wanted, if I lost, I was doing everything I could to be better the next time I did it, But sticking to bodybuilding, bodybuilding, we choose to do this. So that's why I never understand when people complain about, oh, I gotta eat this much. I'm only on 600, 1,600 calories, or doing this much cardio. You chose to do bodybuilding. If you didn't want to diet, do something else. So there's no point complaining about it. Not fasting it. It isn't a weight loss challenge. We're bodybuilders. So do the work. Like, simple as that. So I mean, like, the mindset should be there. If you're choosing to do the sport, I feel like you need to go in with the mindset to be able to go through what's expected to bring you to that level. Not just like, I feel like you see that recently, a lot of it's kind of just like a bucket list, you know? Oh, I'm doing a bodybuilding. I'm bumping to so many people at the supermarket. They're like, oh, I'm doing a show. And I've literally seen this guy in the gym on his phone, half-assed sets, and it's almost insulting to the people that are busting their ass to be on that stage. You know, like, a lot of people are like dedicating their lives to this, you know, like in the gym, like to the point where they're going to pass out just because they want that 1%, you know, like leaner on stage, you know, and you've got people here that are just making a joke of it. So I feel like if you're going to make the choice to do a certain sport or get into bodybuilding, stop complaining. Simple as that. You know,
that goes for any goal. Like, they're not even for bodybuilding.
Yeah, that's absolutely every goal.
And you make a good point, because I think back to like growing up when I was playing football. My dad was like pretty hard on me. So if I didn't play well, he would tell me all the things I did wrong, and it used to piss me off. But then I look back and it made me tough. I used to like cry if we'd lose sometimes. If we had a big game, I'd be so upset and so frustrated, and I'd get so annoyed with everyone, because like I feel like, you know, this is why I like bodybuilding, because when you start bodybuilding, it's like it's you don't have to rely on other people. It's you doing this stuff. As long as you have a coach that is on board with you, which apparently is rare these days. Anyway,
I heard all coaches. I heard most coaches just want the winners, bro. Hey, listen, I just want to put a little shout out. Seeing as we're talking about our childhoods and growing up and all that kind of stuff, I just want a little shout out to all the island boys that got to jog home behind the family car after they lost the game of football. Shout out to you, Usos and Tokos. I was right there with you, bro. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, and like I said, like, it doesn't have to be I just feel like so many people these days are so soft, and it's like they just want everything given them on a silver spoon. Honestly, as soon as there's a little bit of discomfort in anything they do, it's like it's done, it's over. Nah, don't want a bar of it. It's like you're never gonna get anywhere if that's your mindset. Like, I just look back. I don't like using myself as examples, but like, I went through the fucking worst shit of my life ever last year. You guys know, and I had to peak 9 clients 3 days before my mum died, and she was dying. It wasn't like a sudden thing. And then I had to peak another 9 clients the next weekend after, and like, people were like, "How do you do it?" And I'm just like, what was I supposed to do? I had people that rely on me. Like, if this was my job, and I have a goal with, I'm so passionate about it. I have a goal with what I'm doing, and it's much bigger than me. And in order for me to get there, there's just stuff I simply have to do, no matter what the fuck's going on in my personal life, no matter what it is. And I know that sounds way easier than it is. I know that because I've done it, and I know a lot of people won't be able to do that, and that's fine. That doesn't matter. I'm not saying you have to, but like, I just feel like people don't have an urgency to like want to achieve shit. And I don't know, maybe that's because what I'm trying to do isn't just about me, it's about other people around me as well, because if when I hit those goals, it's going to benefit other people, not just myself. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe some people are so self-absorbed with their goal that that's not enough of a reason to really dig when things get hard. I don't know. But I think when it comes to bodybuilding, I think people really need to just get over themselves and understand that, like, yeah, okay, you get hungry, you get tired, you get real lethargic. You can get to the point where getting off the couch is like really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It is hard, but it's not that hard compared to other stuff. And it's also temporary. Like, it's literally, if you do a prep, like 6 weeks are going to be like, you're going to have to dig. The rest of the time, it's not that hard. It's just about, you're going to make sacrifices, but it's not going to be hard. So I just think, like, as far as bodybuilding goes, I think people just need to get over themselves, and just, if you want to do it, just do it. Like, just get it done. And
especially, you know, as Denver said, if they make the choice, if you make the choice to do it, just
We all
Do
make
it.
the choice.
Yeah.
It's literally a choice to do it.
It's a choice. Because listen, I say that all the time. The clients are like, I don't want to do this. This is so hard. I just say, like, don't do it. Stop. No, just don't do it. Like, I didn't ask you to compete. Nobody's asking you to do it. You chose to do it. So then they go, oh, but I'll go, well, I'll just say, just either do it or don't do it. But let's stop with the complaining, because this compassion doesn't live here.
Yeah, and I think, like, because people sometimes ask me, like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? So if I was to try and help someone in this situation, and I'm not even talking about bodybuilding now, I'm just talking about if someone has a goal, because they said goals. So someone has a goal, I would say, like, what you need to do is you need to make it a big fucking goal. Make it something extravagant, something that when you achieve it, you're going to feel amazing. Your life's going to change. Make it big. Don't be scared to set big goals, but then you need to break down what you actually need to do to get there. And you also need to break down what actually happens once you get there. Who benefits? Just, do you benefit only? That's fine, but how? Like, what actually happens? And then break down the steps getting there. And just make sure, obviously, there's no journey is perfect. There's going to be ups and downs, but don't let yourself when you're trying to achieve something, it's so quick. As soon as something goes wrong, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, like, oh, well, I fucked that up. Now I'll do this. Now I'll do this. And then all of a sudden it's dead. And you try again in 12 months. Don't let yourself get there. Just make sure you keep moving forward. And if things don't go right, just get back on and just keep moving forward. And that's literally with anything you're trying to do. So I hope that helps. I wanted to try and give a little bit more than me just saying everyone's soft. But anyway,
I think that you're 100%, Jordan. Make it important. Make it important. Make it really important to yourself. Tell everybody about it. Drum up all the support that you can. Make it a thing. As soon as it becomes a thing, then two things happen. One, you're enabling the people around you to help you and give you support that you need. And when things get hard, they're going to, there's a chance they'll give you a little bit of a pat on the back and a hand up. And two, it also creates more accountability for you as the individual to say, man, I said all this shit. Now I've got to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Never? Anything else to add, bro? You good?
Oh, okay. No, just again on that note as well. Like, I feel like sometimes a lot of people's mindset kind of get, like, messed with as well, and I feel like it's not a good thing. Like, I've noticed that with a lot of coaches in New Zealand. Again, not naming anyone. For example, I remember seeing this post. This was a while back. I remember seeing this post, and this was from Miss Olympia, right? She put up a post. She's won the Olympia, right? Bikini. And she's like, I can't wait to eat fruit once my prep is done. All right. This is just an example. No one's saying fruit is bad for you or anything like that. But best in the world, right? Doing everything possible to win that title. Now you got athletes from New Zealand commenting on there saying, oh, unlucky you. I get to eat fruits all through my comp prep. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying fruit's a bad thing, but I'm like, look at the person and the level they're at, maybe there's a reason you shouldn't be having these things to look a certain way, so, like, I feel like I see a lot of coaches kind of poaching other clients by bagging on others. Like, for example, like if I've got oats and you've got rice flakes, I'm not saying we do that, but I'm just saying
oats are shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's exactly that's what I feel like they're doing, and then I feel like that misses a lot with people's heads, because they're putting. If you're going to hire a coach, put your trust in what they're telling you to do. It's not about what another coach is doing.
Yeah.
I think what, just to add to it, because I think some people are going to get carried away and obsess about the fruit thing. The fruit was an example.
Yeah,
I think what he's saying is, don't get tricked into this idea that I can make it so easy for you and your comp prep is going to be so easy and you're going to look like a pro and you're going to be a good pro and you're not even going to have to try. Because that's what people do. And anyone who looks good, no, 99% of people who look good, it's not easy. There's no easy way. There's no secret. There's no bullshit formula. There's no this, that. It's like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, don't fall for that bullshit.
Again, going off the fruit thing again, I feel like the whole concept of dieting hard is gone. Like, nowadays, I feel like the whole new thing is about, like, I can have you eating muffins and this and that and get into shape kind of thing. And I feel like it's made the athletes so much softer.
Yeah.
There's
become an inflammatory mess.
flexibility.
Yeah.
It's not just listen, I mean, I've been around for such a long time. I think it's hilarious when they come and they're like, oh my gosh, you dieted them on how low were the calories? I don't know about you guys. I don't count calories anyway. I just really work out the macros. But their calories were so low and that's so damaging. Cool, man. Well, you show me how you're going to get them in shape on 3,000 calories.
Yeah.
Show me how that's going to happen. Oh, it didn't happen. Oh, but they're healthy. Oh, okay, no worries. That's not really the criteria.
Yeah.
So it's all about like, I don't know. There's if we touched on it. I know this was something we were going to talk about. Often when you're working with somebody, they're going to have a lot of voices in the background saying, what are you doing? Oh, you need to come and do this. You should be doing this. I don't understand why he's got you doing that. So and this is where the client themselves gets a little bit confused. And then they start asking you those questions because, oh, well, somebody, this guy said that I can do, well, my standard response to that is, so go work with, please go work with them. Like I don't spend a lot of time justifying my process. I'll always explain why I do something, but I don't bother justifying it. If somebody, I've even had this thing where a client might say to me, or a potential client might say to me, well, why should I work with you versus this person? And then I'll say, well, I've got no reason. I don't know. Like, if you want to work with them, work with them. Jordan and I had this thing, right, with somebody who was like, why should I work with you? Should I work with you or should I work with Jordan? And I'm like, well, you asked me that question. I'll say, go work with Jordan. He's the best.
And then she asked me, and I didn't know. And I said, go work with her. She's like, tell me why I should work with you and not Harry. And I said, oh, you should work with Harry. And then she came back to me and she's like, you both said the same thing. What should I do? And I said, flip a coin.
Yeah.
And she flipped the coin and he won.
Because I'm not gonna
just sit here and be like, I'm the man, like work with me. Like,
but I just don't see that. To me, there's nothing to benefit from it, right? Like, I don't bother. Listen, if I'm going to talk shit about somebody, I'll just tell them. I'm happy to tell that person what I think if it comes up, but I'm not going to go to. I just let people make their own decisions and do their own thing. I don't spend time justifying myself or my processes. When people talk in a negative way to me about other people, well, it depends on the relationship I have with that person, right? But for the most part, I don't bother engaging because other than it being amusing, it has no value. It's not going to help me move forward. It's not going to help the client do anything. I don't really care what that other person is doing. And then what I tend to find is that the people who talk the most shit about other people cannot stand in front of that person and say anything to them about it, which I personally think is hilarious because I'm more than happy to say anything to anybody. If I feel it, I'll say it. And I find that particularly amusing. But didn't you have all these things to say? And I've spoken to enough people who said things about me over the years that it is amusing to me how they backpedal. And I don't think it sells you. It doesn't sell you in a good way. If you're the person who's constantly talking shit about other people, that to me, that is just a bad sell. That doesn't make you come across as a good person. I don't get it. And I think that clients now people are a lot more savvy now than they used to be. And there's a lot more, when people ask me about someone, I go, just look at their references and look at who they've got around them. Look at who they've coached. I can't go too far beyond. Jordan did a very funny post one time when he was saying it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So there was some comment, something about you don't know what you're doing, and you were just sitting there going like this, like this, like this, like this, and you had all the different clients and I'm like, because that speaks volumes so much more than any amount of shit talk. And Denver, I never hear you say anything bad about anybody. It's actually, to be fair, bro, it's a little disappointing.
I'm coaching a young girl at the moment. She's like 21 and she's real switched on. And she sent me a screenshot the other day. She was posting her back training and some coach from New Zealand replied to it, and he was like, "You need to do this, this." And she just said, all she replied was, "I'm just doing what Jordan says." And he goes, "Well, Jordan should know this." And she goes, "Thanks, but I'm listening to my coach." Then he said something else, and she just sent a smiley face. She screenshot it and sent to me. She's like, "I'm just checking. Like, do I need to do this?" No, you don't need to do that. Keep doing what you're doing. I would tell you otherwise. So I do think like the deeper you get into it, the more of a reputation you get. I think not everyone. There's people who are always going to be, have their ears open, but a lot of people just after a while think, you know what, I'm just going to listen to this person because
Yeah.
Weirdly
Well, I
enough,
think the
people who
results
do
speak volumes,
achieve
right?
what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
When not, I'm not saying myself, but just in general. But yeah. Anyway, boys, it's been a pleasure. So we just for the listeners, obviously, if you want to be a part of I don't know how the critique your physique is going to go. And I just want to say again, we did this to try and help. We weren't trying to. I hope no one got offended by it. We didn't mean to. If you did, but if you do want to be a part of it, I'll probably I'll either leave that post up or I'll make a new one. I'll put it on the story so you'll see. There's a few questions left over. We'll answer those next time. We'll obviously answer more questions again. And you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and share it to your story.
Catch you later.
Guys.
Real life, real talk, never fall, we ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't, I'm just too attached. I was so lost, I ain't going back. Never fall, we on the road, yeah.